Hi everyone, I'm Kent Louie, science teacher and talking head. Talk about science education and broadcasting from beautiful Vancouver, Canada. This is episode 102. Now, a big stumbling block when it comes to switching to standards-based grading is figuring out what standards should be reported. Now, one might assume that every single line item in the curriculum is a learning standard. But that would be a lot of work to figure out. Like, for example, we need a proficiency scale for every single line item. It would actually be more efficient to figure out the broad skills we're trying to teach and then assess and report on those. But what would be those broad skills? And this is where people get, caught up. Here's where we can use something called learning pathways. And I'll show you what this is in a second. But before I continue, handouts for this episode are available at realsciencechallenge.com/EP102. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now here's the big idea. To save time in using standards-based grading, don't assess each topic individually. This would require, again, a different proficiency scale for each one. Instead, set up your marks book to have 3, 4, or 5 big standards, and then assess those standards by using the topics as the source material. Now to do this, you're going to use something called learning pathways, which is a guide that's laid out those standards already. And I'll show you how it all relates to the NGSS. All right? So learning pathways is based on the idea that as teachers, we all actually teach 3 things: reading, writing, and arithmetic. It hasn't changed over all these years, but more specifically, we actually teach literacy and numeracy, regardless of subject area. And in 2024, the BC Ministry of Education brought together some educators to hammer out what it means to teach literacy and numeracy. And they came up with this. Now, a brief run through, okay? So in the middle, it says literacy or literate learner. This is what literacy means. It means to be able to comprehend text, apply understanding, communicate, develop ideas. The outer circle defines that even more. So for example, applies understanding means curates text, extracts ideas and information. And still even further out, that's even more detail as to what this means, which is what this means. Okay? Now, this is for literacy. This over here is the same thing, but ironed out for numeracy. Okay, so applies, interprets, solves, analyzes. This is what it means to be a numerate learner, to have strong numeracy skills. So now let's bring it back to science education, okay, and the standards we're going to assess. We could have just 2 big standards, like literacy and numeracy, but that's just way too broad. And consider what it means to be literate, okay, so many different aspects, and how it relates to science. It's just too few. Now we could have 9 standards, which would be every one of these aspects and the numeracy ones, and that'd be very thorough, but that would be too many. I propose that for science education, we adopt the literacy aspects as our standards, because science education is actually focused on science literacy. And each one of these aspects will be actually supported by numeracy. So it's going to look something like this, where you have literacy, all right? And each one is going to be kind of strengthened by numeracy. There's not one numeracy skill that we can really assess alone, okay? Now that we have adopted these numeracy skills, comprehends text, applies understanding, communicates, and develops ideas, we're going to set this up in our marks book. Okay, those 4 categories, as opposed to the 2 traditional ones of tests and assignments. Okay, we're going to assess those 4 skills of literacy. Now, how does this relate to the NGSS? Well, if you actually take a look at it, this learning pathways, I've actually placed each one of these NGSS standards under basically each area that I think it fits. So for example, when it comes to comprehends text, it's basically asking questions and defining problems. That's one of the SEPs, the science and engineering practices. When it comes to communicates, it means developing and using models, engaging in argument from evidence, obtaining, evaluating, and communicating information. These are all, again, SEPs, science and engineering practices, and you can see how it fits under communicates. And this is all to say that we can actually simplify our standards in the NGSS in whatever the BC curriculum into like 4 general areas. Again, these 4 standards, which we'll use to set up our marks book, which we will then assess using chemistry or physics or biology or whatever topic we so use. That's it for this episode. Please smash the like or subscribe button or leave a comment below. And handouts once again are at realsciencechallenge.com/EP102. Thanks for watching. And let's talk science education again soon.